Good morning, all of you. Today's class is Law of Supply. This is Unit 6 from Block 2. In this class, we are going to discuss about law of supply, elasticity of supply, determinants of elasticity of supply. These are the things that we are going to discuss today. The main objective of this topic is to understand the relationship between the price and supply. And of course, the student get familiarized with the elasticity of supply. Let us start with the law of supply. The law of supply states that other things remains the same. The supply of commodity rises with the rise in price and falls with the increase in price. In other words, it can be said higher the price, higher will be the supply, lower the price, lower will be the supply. The law suggests that the supply varies directly with the change in price. So the larger the amount the supply of higher price, lesser amount the supply, and the lower the price in the market. So it's very obvious because both price and supply are directly proportional. In order to explain the law of supply, we are preparing a supply schedule. Consider the price of the fountain pen. Suppose it is 10 rupees, the quantity supply will be 10. Suppose it is 20, then it is 13. Suppose the price of the fountain pen is 30, it is 20. Why it is keep on increasing? Because there is a demand. That's why people are demanding more. The supply is given to that particular thing. Whenever there is an increase in price, there will be an increase in supply also. So when you plot this particular supply schedule in a diagram, we are measuring the quantity of fountain pen in the x-axis and price of the fountain pen in the y-axis. Then the shape of the supply curve will be upward sloping from left to right. In this diagram, the supply curve is sloping upwards. It suggests that a positive supply schedule, which means that the market supply tend to be expand with a rise in price and vice versa. Similarly, the upward sloping curve also depicts that a direct correlation between the price and the demand. They are directly related. Suppose higher the proportion, higher will be. Suppose the price is increasing or decreasing, based on that, the supply will increase and decrease, as in the shown in figure 2. This law can be shown in the other way also. In the figure OX axis, it shows the quantity demanded, and OY axis shows the price. S1 in the diagram is a supply curve where the price of the commodity OP, then the quantity supplied will be OQ. When the price rises from OP to OP2, imagine it is increasing from OP to OP2. Subsequently, the supply will increase from OQ to OQ2. Similarly, if the price reduces, imagine it is price is from OP to OP1. You can see in the vertical axis. Then the supply will reduce from OQ to OQ1. So this is a way. It is just opposite to law of demand. In law of demand, when price increases, demand decreases, and vice versa. Here, it is a reverse. When price increases, supply also increases, and vice versa. Now, let us move to the elasticity of supply. The law of supply indicates the direction change, but not the actual change in price. If the price goes up, the supply will increase. But how much supply will increase in response to the increase in the price, which cannot be shown in the law of supply. To quantify such change, we require the concept of elasticity of supply that measures the relative responsiveness of quantities supplied to the change in price. So the elasticity of supply measures the degree of responsiveness of quantity supplied to the change in price of the commodity. It is also defined as a percentage change in quantity supply divided by percentage change in price. So this can be calculated by using the formula ES equal to dou S by dou P. That is, ES is the percentage change in quantity supplied to the percentage change in price. Symbolically, ES equal to delta QS divided by delta Q divided by delta P by delta price level, which is equal to delta Q by delta P into P by QS. Since the price and quantity supplied in a usual case move in the same direction, the coefficient of E is always positive. But it is not in the case of law of demand. The sign will be negative because that is an inverse relation. Here it is a direct relation. So we have to take only the quantum, not the sign. Let us move to the different types of elasticity of supply. For all the commodities, the value of ES cannot be uniform. For some commodity, the value is greater, some value will be lesser than 1. So we will see one by one. Suppose the elasticity of the supply is greater than 1. What will happen? The supply is said to be elastic when given percentage of change in price leads to larger changes in the quantity supply. Under such situation, the numerical value of ES will be greater than 1 but less than infinity. So SS1 in this particular diagram, you can see figure 4.17 exhibits the elasticity of supply. Here the quantity supply changes by larger magnitude than the price does. So you can see the diagram. It is sloping upwards from left to right, SS1. The elasticity of supply is greater than 1. That is why it is more elastic. Coming to inelastic supply, the value will be less than 1. The supply is said to be inelastic when the given percentage of change in price causes a smaller change in the quantity supply. Here, the numerical value of elasticity of supply is greater than 0 but less than 1. You can see in figure 4.8 the inelasticity of supply curve where the quantity supply changes by say smaller percentage what the price can able to do. So when there is a lesser impact in the supply, then it is inelastic. More the supply impact, then it is elastic. Let us move to the third type. It is called unitary elasticity. If the price and quantity changes of the same magnitude, the percentage change in price and percentage change in supply is of same quantum, then the elasticity is said to be unity. Any straight line supply curve passes through that particular origin. Such a way, you can see in the figure 4.19, it is a 45-degree line that shows the supply is equal to 1. This can be verified in different ways. The first one, we may say, for any straight line positively sloped supply curve drawn through the origin, then it is unitary elasticity. The ratio of PQ of any point of supply can be equal to the ratio of delta P by delta Q. Note that delta P by delta Q is the slope of the supply curve, while elasticity 1 by delta P by delta Q, which is equal to delta P by delta P. So that's the formula for calculating the elasticity of supply is simple two ratios. Delta Q is quantity of supply by delta P into QS. Both get cancelled and we can get the value of 1. Then the fourth type is perfectly elastic supply because the value is infinity. The numerical value of elasticity of supply is exceptional. It is an exceptional case. Why? Because it reaches the infinity. The supply curve P is in the figure 4.2, which it is equal to infinity. Why? Because there is no change in supply. Likewise, the other way, perfectly inelastic means there is no change in price where the supply is keep on changing. So it is perfectly inelastic. Here the elasticity of supply is equal to 0, which is shown in the 4.21. One important point that to be noted here is any straight line supply curve that intersect the vertical axis of the origin, the elasticity of supply is greater than 1. The elasticity will be less than 1 if the straight line has the horizontal axis. At any point it is moved towards the origin, then it is unitary elasticity. So there are many ways to measure the elasticity of supply. Here we measure the elasticity of supply with a particular point where the given supply curve. See the figure number 4.22. Here the SS represents the supply curve. To measure the elasticity of supply of a particular point curve SS, we have drawn a straight line called NT. You can see in the diagram NT. In such a way, it touches the supply curve SS at the point A and C. As these 2 points lie very close to each other, the slope of such supply curve as well as the slope of this ND curve is the same because it makes a tangency. Based on this tangency, we can formulate the law of supply. ES is a law of supply which is equal to delta Q by delta P into P by Q, which is equal to A. In diagram you can see AB by BC into OA by OQ. The triangle ABC, NQA is a similar triangles. Thus, we can write NQ by QA instead of AB by BC. Therefore, the formula goes like this. Elasticity of supply E is equal to NQ by QA into QA by OQ, which is equal to NQ by OQ. Because QA get cancelled, the formula will be NQ by OQ. You can see in the figure 4.22 that suggests when NQ is less than OQ, the coefficient of elasticity of the lie is less than 1, it is inelastic. Suppose it is greater than 1, then it will become elastic. If NT straight line passes through the origin, the elasticity of supply becomes unity and it passes through the price and the vertical axis, the coefficient will be greater than 1, it is called elasticity. That is, it is less than mean inelastic, greater than mean elastic. It is passes through the origin means it is a unitary elasticity. Apart from all these law of supply and features and types of elasticity, now we should know what are all the determinants of supply. Here we are concerned about the factors which affect the elasticity of supply, namely the nature of goods, type of goods, the relevance of time period, and so on. There are many factors. Let us start with the nature of the good. As a demand elasticity, the most important determinant of elasticity of supply is availability of substitutes. In the context of supplies, the substitute goods are those which are the factor of production can mostly easily transfer. For example, the farmer can easily move from growing wheat to produce a jute. Of course, the mobility of factors is very important for substitution. As a general rule, the easier the factor can be transferred from the production of one good to that of another, the greater will be the elasticity of supply. Since the durable goods can be stored in a long time, its elasticity of supply is very high. But for a non-durable goods, like perishable goods, the elasticity of supply tend to be very low. Then the second one about the product, definition of the product. As in the case of demand or supply, the elasticity of supply also depends on the definition of the commodity. Then narrow the commodity is defined, the greater elasticity of supply. For example, it is easier for the tailor to transfer the resources from producing red skirt to green skirt, but from skirt to men to trouser. It is easy to change the type of product. Skirt to skirt is possible, but skirt to trouser is difficult. That is why a properly defined commodity should be there. From moving to wheat to rice is easy, but wheat to any vegetables is difficult task. The third factor is the time. It is the most influencing factor for law of supply and elasticity of supply. The time also exerts considerable influence on elasticity of supply. The supply is more elastic in the long run than the short run. The reason is easy to find out. Longer the time period, easier it is to shift the resources among the products, the following changes in their relative price. This is usually true in case of most agricultural commodities because of the natural time lag between the planting and harvesting the crops. In agricultural production plan, we have to make months, even years ahead, and they cannot be altered quickly. The manufacturing industries, on the other hand, can usually adjust their output upward and downwards very quickly in response to changing condition of the market. The fourth determinant is the cost of attracting the resources. If the supply is to be increased, it is necessary to attract the resources from other industries. This usually involves raising the price of these resources. As the price rises, cost of production also increases. So the supply becomes relatively inelastic. If these resources can be obtained cheaply, then the supply is likely to be relatively elastic. These considerations become very important at the time of full employment when only the available factors of production are those which can attract from the other industries and uses. The last determinant is the level of price. The elasticity of supply is also likely to vary in different prices. Thus, when the price of the commodity is relatively high, the producer are likely to supplying near the limit of the capacity and would therefore be unable to make much response to the high price. When the price is relatively low, however, the producer may have the supplier surplus capacity, and higher the price will induce them to use. So now let me summarize what we discussed today. Today we have discussed the price and output are directly related, and type of elasticity of supply are listed out, and we are also analyzed the determinants of elasticity of supply in this class. The key word about this topic is law of supply, elasticity of supply, and determinants of supply. And the possible section C question is explain the elasticity of supply with the determinants. And oftenly they are asking define law of supply. So with this, let me complete the class. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, comment on this. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you.